thank you so very much for being patient while we were all skilling ourselves or maneuvering and managing our way around the technology. And in the process, we were also equipping to do some level of pattern identification. We just heard Dr. talk about personal effectiveness as being the critical element, and that's a rejoinder which is what morning's session from Raghavendra was all about. Whether it is I mean, how does the workforce become agile? I think what is most important, as a matter of fact, if we were to look at it, what was shared as skilling and upskilling program in World Economic Forum at Davos in 2019 May, and obviously this year there was no World Economic Forum at Davos other than something in the virtual summit, was that there were 49% of Fortune 2000 organizations who had developed and embarked on skilling, upskilling, reskilling program, and there was a learning interventions that these Fortune 2000 organizations had undertaken. 49% of them had not embarked on that journey, and 22% of the workforce of that organization, which had set up a plan for upskilling, reskilling, had become obsolete and irrelevant. What also emerges from the very recent study after uh, the COVID had struck us, and as we started moving into what I call as a DD economy, or digitally distant economy, and I think from the perspective of digitally distance, one thing is certain: work comes to people, and not the other way around, where people had been coming to work pre-COVID era. So the perspective that comes out is whatever made anybody successful yesterday is not sufficient to survive today and tomorrow. And that as a context is an important element where one has to look at it this way, that new skills are emerging in distant economy. There is complete imbalances in talent supply and demand. There is complete revamping that is happening of digital talent on the marketplace platforms. The changes to supply chain on talent is getting reinvented. And if I can continue adding to gloom and doom, I think there is still some element of doom. And what that means is now boundaries are no longer a barrier. As online learning starts getting embraced far more effectively in a hyper exponential accelerated mechanism, the ease with which, if I can use the pain or gain of knowledge infliction, can be absolutely uh, embarked upon. And what that means is one stroke, 10,000 people uh, on a sustained basis can be trained, and 10,000 is a conjectured number at this stage. I am Vineet Ranjan, and I work for a company called Concentrics, and I manage and I'm custodian of the client relationships that we actually undertake for Asia Pacific region. Almost about 3+ decades of exposure into corporate life. Having said that, I think I will want to hear from our esteemed panelists who are absolutely uh, phenomenal, and I think I will uh, request if we can start with you, Saurabh, and if you could introduce yourself, and we'll just take a minute to go around and sort of come back. So over to you, Saurabh.
Sure. Thanks, Vineet. And indeed, an honor to be amongst esteemed panelists, who carry decades of experience. It feels like a toddler in the space. A quick about myself: Saurabh Shah, head of HR for Capita in India. I manage the technology people function, which is close to 2,000 people across Pune and Bangalore. Part of a global organization, 53,000 people, 4.5 billion pounds of revenue, predominantly headquartered in the UK.
Fantastic. Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you for sharing. 50,000 people, predominantly based out of UK. Capita is a great organization. Thank you. I think we'll go the visual round first, and Maybe if you can quickly introduce yourself, Raghavendra, the Agile Workforce
Okay.
Driver.
Thanks, Vineet. And I feel privileged to be part of this panel. I've sat through the entire presentations and discussions. So much of new learnings. I think as HR professionals and lead industry or functional leaders, we need to continuously skill and reskill ourselves. An introduction known as Raghu or Raghav, depending upon how people have got me introduced. And been in HR for almost now about 5 years. So that's my experience. It's still every day is a new day because it's not how many years you've spent, what is it you're learning and reinventing yourself, what is key and crucial. That's the way I look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Raghavendra. Uh, Guru needs no introduction, but we'll still wait because I do see a couple of, or rather, few more participants have joined. Over to you, Guruji.
Yes. Guruvayurappan. People call me Guru, based out of Bangalore. I head HR for Omega Healthcare, BPM industry. We have 4 delivery centers in Bangalore, in India, and about 2 delivery centers in Philippines. Close to about 16,000 employees, been with the company for the past 14 plus years. Overall, 30 years of experience all along in HR. Worked in manufacturing to start my career, moved into aviation, then last 20 years in this industry. That's me. And WFM is something which is very new to my learning portfolio. So that is something was I did new learning in the last 1.5 years. Prior to that, I used to hear about what is WFM. So it's learning is something continuous, and looking at one thing, all of us have more to unlearn than learn at this point in time.
Thank you, Dr. Guru, for sharing very interesting perspective. That you have been bold and courageous enough and curious enough to learn and pick up a new skill 1.5 years ago, and that too into the old Semite or boring, whichever way one was to look at it in field of WFM. Thank you, Dr. Guru, for sharing that perspective. And we want, I'm sure everybody who is there on this call and who have registered for the WFM session are curious, bold, and hungry to learn and skill and upskill. With that, I will draw all the attention to the true blue IBMer, Dr. Subbu.
Yeah, so thanks Vineet, and thanks Vineet. It's an honor to be part of this, and I would have also introduced the way you have introduced me, True Blue IBMer, because this is the only company I have worked for. Joined as a fresh engineering graduate way back in '97, when we were still Tata Information Systems Limited, and then we became IBM and all of that. So this was a subsidiary then. So all my experience and whatever I say is limited to my work experience in IBM, and I really look forward to learning from you all in this session. Thank you.
Fantastic, Dr. Subbu, thank you. And then obviously we come to the most powerful, most enigmatic speaker, and I think we look forward to hear from you, Swarna. I don't know why I keep on calling you Swara. So let's hear the Swara of Swarna.
Maybe you brought the rhythm even before my voice could be heard. Vineet, thank you very much for saying that, I'm Swara and not Swarna. Either ways, I'm fine. If Saurabh mentioned that he's a toddler in front of other panelists, I think I'm just born. Okay, and I'm yet to grow up. More than sharing anything, I prefer to learn a lot from all of you here. It's been 13 years with TCS and another 4 years with Murugappa Group of Companies. I started my career with Murugappa Group of Companies and then moved to TCS. Right now, I'm managing talent development for TCS Europe, UK, and Ireland. Though I'm a HR professional, I'm a specialist in learning and development and leadership development.
Fantastic, Swarna. Thank you so very much. While we introduce you the last, we will put you on the hot seat first. And I think as we go across round robin, I think it will be very interesting to get your perspective and your organizational any case study or success point that may be available on how you have gone about crafting a talent strategy in the new normal environment, and the set of challenges that you may have had embarked and the problems that you may have had solved, or the problems that still are remaining to be solved as far as crafting the talent strategy is concerned.
Thank you, Saurabh, for starting with that. It gives me a very different experience, not being seen by people, but I can see all of you. You know, it's a completely different experience, which is very interesting, actually. And I'm sorry that the video did not work. I think before I could join itself, based on the announcements that came up, a lot of people had messaged me saying, okay, tell us definitely about the 25 by 25 in TCS, which is very widely popular. So it is our trademark. We call it the secured borderless workspaces. We take pleasure in telling people that when the situation hit us hard, within 4 weeks span of time, we were able to onboard 95% of our workforce, regularly working for our clients, supporting them with their business prospects. So that is what was very interesting. The talent strategy as such, I think at a very high level, I would say that it remains the same for many organizations, for us too. We'd like to optimize the performance of our employees and continuously meet business requirements. That definitely remains the same. But probably how we'd like to meet it, there are a lot of things that are changing because of the secured borderless workspaces. We need to be very sure of the infrastructure requirements with which we enable our employees and make sure that they are fully capable of being very productive and meet customer demands. We're keeping in mind the business vision, definitely the long-term vision and the short-term priorities of business on the one hand. And on the other side, the employees' aspiration because of their potential, which is again, we keep as long-term, and the skill gaps that we have to close in the short-term. So on the one hand, we have the business vision, long-term, short-term, and on the employees, on the other hand, with short-term and long-term aspirations. So I think the point where it meets, that's going to be very critical, and definitely what is going to attract them is careers. So we are seeing a very meeting point is actually careers of employees for both meeting business demands and employees gaining ahead with their aspirations. That's what I would like to summarize in a nutshell, and for which I think we are looking at it in a very, very straightforward manner. We know that apart from being secured borderless, our systems also have to become boundaryless. We have to talk to each other. The systems have to talk to each other. In many organizations, when people keep asking that, look, you're all technology organizations, what is the problem in systems talking to each other? I think the answer is very simple. Systems can talk to each other. We'd have to make people talk to each other. The collaboration have to come in place, and it has to be happening this time. Because with all the digitalness coming in so much, even though in 2014-15 we had the vision of default as digital, we brought a lot of digital interventions and digital business were booming. Now it's a very different ball game altogether. It's completely digital. There's no other option for us. So which means people also have to talk to each other. We'll have to collaborate more and more, become more and more agile, making systems talk to each other, and keeping in mind that careers are going to be the center point, employee experience is going to be the center point. So we'll have to make sure that both are met, with people speaking, enabling systems speaking to each other, making it very transparent for business demands and career aspirations of people. That's how I'd like to summarize it and start. Vineet.
Sure. No, thank you. I think that is very, very helpful. Very, very helpful. I will move on to you, Raghavendra, and check your perspectives. In case if you may want to either supplement, complement, compete, or provide a completely contrarian viewpoint on the crafting of talent strategy in the neo normal.
So Swarna started off like so Sachin Tendulkar in 1 day, started off with a big bang and has actually stolen the thunder in terms of what is it that needs to be done. But and I can only supplement in terms of what she has said, especially when we've been struck now with the pandemic, while this was always on the cards when we said there's a digital disruption that's happening and the world of work is actually becoming digital, virtual, and all of that. But we did not realize it was creeping into each one of us. But the fact of the matter is with COVID, I think all the more it has got a greater urgency in terms of what we need to be doing in terms of skilling and upskilling, reskilling, whichever way you look at it, to be better prepared. Because the world of work has completely changed from what we know and what we understand. Especially while it has impacted the entire spectrum of work that the way we knew it, from a BPM context, where what I briefly alluded to this morning too, is where we worked in confined spaces and totally to a situation where more than 90% of people are working from home. So how are we prepared then in terms of learning? So I would look at it, while everybody says it's the information age at one end, I think as HR professionals and as leaders, I think while information age is what it is, we need to move into very quickly leverage that and talk of being collaborative with IS, information systems, with technology, with customers, and everybody else in terms of how we learn and reskill and reinvent ourselves in terms of being prepared for the future. You alluded to that report of the World Economic Forum, and they said that 75 million jobs will vanish in the next 4 to 5 years. But the good part is more than 133 million jobs will be created. And by 2022, it is said that more than 22 or 24% of newer job families will arise. I think that's the way the world is changing. So the need to reskill, the need to upskill ourselves become that much more important. And as leaders, and more so in HR, in L&D, and business too, what is it that needs to be done differently should be our focus. That's how I would like to start off the entire discussion, because the need is to be agile, the need is to adapt, adopt newer ways of learning. I think the way I would look at it is the newer skills, while I'm not underplaying the basic domain and behavioral skills that you need to do what we're expected to do even into the future. I think becoming IT savvy, becoming good at IT savvy, tech savvy, analytical skills, AI. I think these are areas where increasingly, as employees of the future, we need to be a lot more adept, so that core skills are learned, practiced, but to put it to use and then perform, we need to focus a lot more on the newer skill sets just coming into play. These are my 2 cents for an opening.
Sure. No, I think thank you for completely building it up and supplementing with what Swara had started. I think collaboration came across as a fantastic input, and how do we put a leverage around it? Becoming tech savvy is the order of the day. AI becomes a necessity, and employers of future. I think that was a very relevant context, really, from a thought leadership standpoint. And I think the only question to you, Raghavendra, will be: you defined core skills. So in the new normal, are there any new core skills apart from AI that you can think of, or that you would suggest to the group?
See, everybody need not be working on high technology items. The entire focus first is to appreciate and build awareness of what is required in the day-to-day for people like you and me to be actually operational. Forget being adept and an expert. I think the focus is in terms of building that awareness. How and what is it we should do as organizations, as HR, as leaders, as HR, as the L&D experts? What is our framework? What is our roadmap? Because we can't wish away the hundreds and thousands of people who are delivering what they're supposed to be delivering. And therefore, in the first instance, it's the need to build awareness of what is it and how is it people need to further look at it in terms of making things happen. And that should be the first step. Having said that, then look at how we leverage what we know and work with multiple teams, understand the business context, and build programs so people can transition. What we call as the bridge program is what we need to be focusing on. So while the domain, the behavioral, and every other competencies need to be there at the base, to using the newer skills and competencies that will be required is what the focus needs to be, is how I would look at it. I'm not saying you should know Python or you should know some skill which most people may not even be requiring. It's like your smartphone. Our ability to leverage what is there in the smartphone is more important for me as a regular employee rather than understand the technology works at the back end. But I should know how to use it. Otherwise, in the past, I would only use this for making a call. But now I can go around the entire world, understanding its features, leveraging what technology has enabled, and be a lot more effective. So there's one, I'm not saying we should become IT and information system experts. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. There's a separate set of people who work on that. But being able to leverage that and be comfortable to make it happen is where the focus needs to be.
Sure. I think that was a powerful example. And just before I move to Blue, and I'm conscious that we have to let you go at about in 23 minutes. But still, just another pointed question for you. And I think you brought out a very metaphorically a great example. Do you think, in your mind, the coming era of WFM professionals will have to be savvy on UX, UI? I mean, given the fact that you said I pick up what is called a smartphone and I don't need to know Python and R and some of the other skills, but how tech savvy am I? So does that mean that coming era of WFM professionals necessarily has to craft skills on UX, UI?
Absolutely. And therefore, while UX and UI is how things need to move, what are the platforms, what are the enablers, what are the tools which we need to build to make things happen, especially with the new generation coming in at one end, and as you alluded to, silver, gray, white hair. How and what is it we should be doing differently? At our organization, we have a platform called the Lex. It is actually a platform where I can learn on the go. It provides a playground for where I can make and build my own playlist in terms of what I need to focus on. It provides me rewards. It provides me an assessment. It provides me, monitors my progress, and then I move forward. So the responsibility for being aware and learning is with the individual. At an organization level, how am I enabling her or him to make it work? And therefore, the entire platform that is built helps me look at what is it I should be doing in terms of reskilling and upskilling. What are the new programs that is there? Is there a playground on which I can choose what I want to learn? What are my goals which I need to fix and then monitor it myself? And then there's a training council. My boss also has visibility in terms of my learning journey. And the entire approach is to look at do, learn, do. So it is so designed that it is just not of exposure to a concept. It is in terms of how you can actually make it work for you in your workspace. So the do, learn, do concept is where our entire, it's there in the basics too in terms of the old world, but it gets greater urgency in terms of how actually I am leveraging and putting to use what I've learned. So learning, unlearning, and relearning comes into play. And you should be good enough to actually, brave enough and clear enough that you need to actually put it to use. So at the org level, We are saying it's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to share your vulnerabilities. But the fact is, don't stop there. How is it I need to move forward in my reskilling and upskilling is where the focus is. So my entire focus is how can I enable, while in all my public forums, when I do my town halls, when I do my focus group discussions, I say you as an employee is responsible for your own learning, but for the team at the back end. And that's my primary focus. How am I be able to enable to make it work is the focus. I work and it's fairly giving me good results. And the fact is that while people are saying they're virtual and all of that, my attendance in the Lex platform for various programs, certifications is far, far higher than when I used to run classroom-led programs. So you're giving it on the go at the employees,
may not understand all the of overall
choice. Make it work.
but you know, if
That's
you can
how
just
it is.
give a high level overview in terms of what you've
Sorry,
understood so far, and in terms of what is going to be the overall agenda for the call.
I didn't get it.
Oh, that was a cross connection.
Oh, I'm sorry. Because I thought there was a question that came. I'm so sorry. Because it actually broke my chain of thought, but it's still fine.
Yeah, I think, okay, perfect. I think you were absolutely on the roll, and sorry about the disruption, Raghavendra. I would request for folks who are not speaking, if they can remain on mute. We don't want other panelists to get impacted the way flow of thought got impacted for Raghavendra.
So specifically into the skills of the future, we have launched what we call in the BPM world, the School of Digital Transformation, where the objective is to educate and build capabilities so as to accelerate digital transformation, where we're looking at changing of mindset, reskilling, sharing knowledge, and demonstrating experience. With all the newer skills that is required, whether it's at the agent level, where he or she needs to be really adept to make things work, and depending upon the nature of work and the requirements, various levels with which people would need to take it forward if you're talking of a specific set which a person is looking for. Accordingly, depending upon what the need is, we have gone ahead and made our roadmap in terms of being ready for the future.
Fantastic. Fantastic. That is very impressive. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Raghavendra. I'm sure participants would definitely have had made some good copious notes. Very relevant for all GWFM professionals who are attending the session. I would make a deviation to reach out to you, Subbu, Dr. Subbu, True Blue IBMer, and maybe if you can just merge and build onto the future readiness that Raghavendra has talked about, and that getting crafted into the neo-normal strategy. And again, in case if there are some contextual examples that you could share of what IBM is embracing and taking up, I think that would be helpful.
Sure. So this is all an evolution, right? The traditional talent strategy was what we used to call as 3B strategy, right? Either you build or buy or borrow, right? Either you will build in-house talent, or you hire from the market, you buy, or you borrow consultants, experts, or whatever. So from there, slowly, when performance management came in, we started adding 2 more Bs, which is bounce and bind. Bouncing off the bottom performers or binding the top talent and all of that. So it became 5B. Now I would think, with all that, building on what Raghavendra said, it's all about bridge and balance, right? Adding 2 more Bs to it. The bridge is all about, this upskill, cross-skill, reskill that we are talking about. And the balance is, how do you strike the right balance between these 6 B's, right? So it's not that the buy, build and borrow are going to go away, but still you have this huge talent. And we all have read these reports, right? If we just take this IT workforce of 4.3 million, only 20% is digitally skilled. And what they are saying is the digital skilled workforce we need is about 80%, which means pretty much the entire workforce has to be recycled. Right? That's one part of it. The second is, the previous generations have also seen, this in their lifetime, but I think we are going to see it more often. So let me tell you that the traditional approach to life, the previous generation, by that I mean, I don't know which generation I belong to, but let me take the generation previous to my father, okay, who is 70 now. So probably they had a 3 bots approach to life, right? Educate, work, and retire. They were able to shepherd a 30-year career with the 20-25 years of education that they have got, right? I don't think they would have ever spoken about reskilling, ever spoken about going back to school, ever spoken about any of these in their career, right? They were able to shepherd a 30-year career with their whatever bachelor's or master's degree that they have got. And that's, I would liken it to the traditional waterfall model. But now we are in this agile thing, right? So as Raghavendra said, learn, do, right? We may have to do this multiple sprints. You educate, you work, and then when that knowledge becomes redundant, you go back to this education. So one will see 4 to 5 sprints at least in their career of 30 years. Distinct, career shifts we would have made, right? And we like it or not, if we don't sprint, we will not be able to successfully complete this race. So that's something that we need to be geared up to. And in this new normal, the interesting piece of this puzzle is the Gen Z, right? So which is going to be about 1/3 of the workforce in another 3-4 years, and that's going to be shifting the whole new normal paradigm to a different arena, because their outlook will be completely different, right? It's a generation which is as old as Google, right? 20-25 years old. The internet engagement that they have, and they define success in their own terms, unlike what we had, right? So the current generation, or the millennials or the Gen Y, they still have this thing of, after +2 or the 12th standard, it was an engineering or a medical that was, right? Now I don't think those are the two sought after thing. I know there is a big ad going on by HCL. We used to say after 12th standard it's B Tech. Now it is Tech B, right? So they don't want to waste 4 years in an education, right? You God knows what will happen to the relevance of that 4-year education when they graduate out. Because in IT, at least this as per an IEEE study, the half-life of knowledge is 2.5 years. So they wouldn't want to do a 4-year engineering course in IT to figure out that whatever they learned is not really useful, and the company has to train them again, or they have to learn something else all over again, right? So with that, and the emergence of MicroMasters and all that, so I think the new normal will be not the traditional education, where people will learn things by themselves. And as WFM professional, we just need to be at best curators. We just have to create that create that environment, and I think people will pick things on their own. And towards that, I think in IBM, I think the entire WFM strategy revolves around these 2 things that I said: the bridging and the balancing, right? Of how do we upskill them, and we have this Lighthouse portal, and we have these partnership with pretty much whatever you call Hacker, Udemy, and all of that, because that's the new way of learning. I can't force the millennials or the current generation to come and sit in a classroom and learn, right? It's all self-paced learning and all of that. So that's the way of learning that we are embracing. And then they wouldn't want to be tested also. They would like to get into challenges, the hackathon and the new way of proving themselves or showcasing themselves and getting all those social recognitions. So we are creating those systems in place, and then see how the learning and the whole bridging and the reskilling blossoms, right? So that's what I think will be the new normal, and how we can adapt for it.
Fantastic. Subbu, thanks for sharing. I think from 3B to 5B to 6B to the balance or the bridge, whichever way one was to look at it. I think that has been fantastic. Thank you for sharing. I really like your efforting a 30-year career with the context of 25 years of education and no context of reskilling being available in possibly a generation above. And I think that is so very contextually relevant. Goes on to build on to what Swarna and Raghavendra have shared as a relevance from upskilling standpoint. I think being tech savvy and digital transformation element that had come across. So all of them have been just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So, Saurabh, any additional perspective that you will want to build across?
Sure, Vineet, and I think from my perspective, the way I look at this entire scenario, that it's a disruption, and the disruption is not only technological, but it is societal as well as personal disruption, and it's important to look at this disruption as an opportunity, and focus on the three important aspects which Capita as an organization also focuses on: people, process, and technology. And I think the challenge is going to be to create a process for the people using the technology, and that's going to be the beautiful amalgamation of these three aspects. How do you really create a process which will be people focused, and how do you make use of technology to make it faster, make it easier, make it transparent, and make sure that people adapt to that. So I think from my perspective, the talent strategy, the high level will remain same, because at the center of the strategy is people, and that is not going to change. But I think the way we would execute the strategy would change. How would we recruit? How would we look at onboarding people? How do we induct people? How do we train people? How do we provide that platform? I think that entire approach is going to change, and I think from a Capita standpoint, we were fortunate enough that within the first couple of weeks of our lockdown, we were able to kind of stabilize our workforce and make sure that 95% plus people were enabled to work from home, and then we quickly got into agile mode to make sure that our onboarding is in place, our exit is in place, because Swarna touched upon a beautiful concept or beautiful thought of employee experience. So end of it, whatever we do, the employee experience should not be impacted, because that is what calls for a great workplace experience. If your employee experience is untouched in any of the scenario, I think that is an amazing outcome and a success of a robust talent strategy is what I would say. And the last bit, I think, Vineet, which I would want to touch upon, somebody mentioned about the data overload, and I think rightly put by McKinsey, that data-driven organizations are 23 times more likely to acquire customers, 6 times likely to retain customers, and 10 times more likely to be profitable. So I think it's going to be an age of information overload, data overload, but then the challenge or the crux is going to be the human intervention. So how do you interpret the data? How do you use emotional intelligence, emotional quotient to drive your decisions using that data is going to be the need for the future. And then, I think the focus is going to be on how do you look at enabling your people to make sure that that change, that paradigm shift is happening from a learning perspective as well. So I think we need, I'll pass it back to you at, on that note, and then, probably, we take it ahead from there.
Sure, thank you. I think that is very, very powerful again, Saurabh, and thank you for hooking it up with employee experience. I think you brought out a relevant point of information overload with respect to data is going to be there. I'll just pause for 30 seconds. I'm conscious, Raghavendra, in another 300 seconds, you have a hard stop. So I will just sort of build it up, and would want to thank you, because as I start moving towards Guruji, I would be, I mean, the flow would be on. So on behalf of all the participants, I do extend immense learning. We would have loved for you to stay back for another round. Having said that, we will keep on interlocking. And I personally have learned a lot in the session all this while. My journey still continues.
Thank you, sir, and Swarna, and the audience. I truly appreciate accommodating my request, because I have a senior leadership review for the US and I need to be there at 8 p.m. India time. Thanks a ton. It was a great learning for me, and continue to learn. That's the only way to reinvent ourselves in this new world. Thank you, and once again, wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much, Raghavendra, sir.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you, Raghavendra.
Fantastic. So while we will continue to build from where Saurabh has left, we will also take you from what Raghavendra had talked about, and he had very clearly brought about shift in mindset that will be relevant. And I think Dr. Guru, you had touched upon personal effectiveness in the previous session. So if we were to look at it, is there a correlation that you see on mindset? Saurabh talked about emotional intelligence, employee experience is what Swarna talked about. Sorry about that, Swarna again. And I think we also heard Dr. Subbu talking very passionately about the bridge and the balance. So is there a path on talent strategy that you think can be linked to personal effectiveness or mindset, and if so, what is that path and what is that roadmap? Sorry, maybe you're speaking on mute.
Yes, I was speaking on mute. A very good question, and I know it is all interlinked, be it the mindset or effectiveness, and also the adoption to the new learnings, etc. When we are looking at it, I step back a little bit and then also look at not from a generic IT world in terms of learning and unlearning or reskilling, what we are now discussing about. Probably much beyond that is the need for global workforce, team to take this discussion forward. When we look at the millennials who are going to come, or Z generation coming after 4 years to the work environment, that is all about less than 4 to 5% of the workforce in the industry in the country. We have a huge there's a ministry on skill development, and then there are state ministries, and then there are various forums who are talking about skilling, skill India, skill missions, and things like that. So if you look at it, the way the skilling as a specific topic requires a grassroots level rethinking. Possibly, my mother is able to use a smartphone today, which otherwise was very difficult for me. The Ola or Uber driver is able to use the technology much comfortable way than anybody else would have even completed their BE graduation. Because these are all the need, the mother is the necessity is the mother of invention. So the learning happens, and if it requires, it is all that we as leaders can only facilitate. And then if there is a requirement, I think one of our previous participants talked about, definitely whether it makes sense for the career for everybody. So the way I look at it, hey, is there a way we are creating the upskilling for the generation to come and work for us, whether the generation who are managing this workforce are having the right mindset to accept these people with those new skill set. Because every time this experience, when I was doing this is how we did. For example, are we able to even understand our own kids, what is their need? Because we see what our childhood is, and then that is how we are transporting things. So there is the mindset requirement is only good old days. We talked about change management, but today what is happening is even the new technology, what we are training them or we are upskilling them, is also short-lived because another technology is coming. So what is that when we are training up or the people are reskilling upon, reskilling is basically I'm looking at how do I make myself relevant. If the relevance is not there, I don't need to get reskilled. So that happens. Upskill happens because there is a project happening and then I need to do or not. So the mindset, when I try to tell, and the personal effectiveness when I'm trying to bring in spite of we do the reskilling or upskilling, whether the expected outcome, whether the person who is getting is coming or not, that is where the workforce plays a major role. So I'm trying to link while we are looking at the IT, organization's perspective, there is a need to look at the environment. Whether my housekeeping guy, if he is able to come with a different dress, am I able to accept him? The security, you expect him to salute that particular person. If someone feels like, can I use first name and then call? That may be a fashion, but can the same thing can be adopted? So that is the, additional, probably a soft skills that requires to be added to the digital skills is not my perspective when I was talking about the personal effectiveness and that.
Sure. So thank you for explaining and providing that clarity. So digital skills goes hand in hand with the soft skills. So that element should not be lost as a focus as we continue to embark on upskilling ourselves on digital skills. I think that's a message that is coming out, and thank you for bringing that clarity. Wonderful. So I think I'm conscious, Saurabh, you have another 180 seconds, 1380 seconds hard stop. So we'll be able to wind up our session. And I'm just trying to impress all of you on the participant side who are not able to speak. I'm the custodian of schedule adherence. I'm complying to the adherence policies as have been laid down by your WFM plans. And here is an approach that we have been undertaking. But yeah, begin with an end in mind is what we had embarked on. And thank you for bringing that perspective out. Maybe I'll want to go to the go to you, Dr. Subbu, and check from you in terms of as we sort of embark on our journey of looking at the social distancing norms that are going to be prevalent right now. In the socially distant era, if I can use the word, where we are going to focus on DD economy or digitally distant economy, what are the upskilling approaches that are going to be very different from the traditional model that we have been seeing so far?
Okay, that's an interesting one, Vineet. See, what this COVID has done to us is, I remember a WhatsApp forward. So who was the key driver, or who led the maximum change, digital transformation in your organization? Is it CEO, CIO, and the third option was COVID? Okay. So I think this COVID has really transformed the way, or accelerated the way. So some of this, what we are saying as the new socially distant and all that, this would have anyway happened in due course of time. Maybe a couple of years down the line or 3 years down the line, we would have gone to some of these things anyway. The reason I'm saying that is, I'm betting big on this Gen Z. Today, when I talk to my son, why do you waste your time in mobile? He just gives a stare at me and says, "You don't know what I am doing." Okay. Right? And there I stop. And actually, they are doing some serious stuff. They are learning things on their own. Nobody told them that Python is important or whatever. But he picked up some cues from whatever he is seeing, and he's a 10th grade student, and he's doing things on something that we are trying. Somebody who is 10 years in the IT industry, and we are saying, guys, you need to learn this. But students in 10th grade are doing this, right? So this generation, is already, using the socially distant way of learning, right? Almost every kid is, adept in learning, looking at the Khan Academy or the Byju's or something else, right? Most of the competitive exams that they are preparing, as part of the package, they give a tab, right? So these guys are already there. right? So the socially distant era may be a new thing for the millennials or the Gen Ys, but for Gen Zs it's already there, right? So I think what we have to do is upskilling from that perspective. I think we need to do 4 things. One is Dr. Guru talked about the mindset change, right? And Raghavendra was talking about cultural change and all that. So it's all about creating that learning culture, because be it developers, programmers, or the Gen Z folks, they learn by themselves, right? You cannot put them on a work schedule and say this is the time for you to learn, etc. They will not, because they are adapt to and they want to learn only things that they need for that piece of work or whatever, right? And they know where to pick it and where to learn, right? So they learn by themselves. So all we need to do is create that learning culture in the organization. And by that learning culture, what I also mean is, when you plan their work schedules, for example, allow that me time in their work schedule. Don't pack them with a 60-hour week or 45-hour week, right? So give that learning space, learning time, and they will figure out what to learn and be employable, right? So that is one. That's the cultural part of it. The second is create this community. For example, look at the popularity of a community like Stack Overflow, right? It's just a Q&A website, right, for the programmers to go in, post their question. There are more than 16 million questions there answered by experts. So they believe in that community, feeling and bonding and learning from peers, right? So see how we can create that community within the organization, or see how we can encourage them to be part of the larger communities. If it means getting them some subscriptions, licenses, funding their memberships or whatever, right? So that's something that we need to do, right? And then most of it, I think we shouldn't be driving it top down, but put them on control, right? Put them in control, meaning, they have multiple options today, and see what works for them. This one size fits all will not work with these guys, right? So that's what we need to do. So I would think this upskilling in this remote, touchless, socially distant era is all about massive reskilling with mass customization, right? Which means we need to do this at scale, but in a personalized way, right? So, and that can be possible only when we let the individuals own it, and we create an environment and leave it to them, and we will see that upskilling will scale up. That's my 2 cents.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that. I think it was very well stated. Gives an interesting perspective on how we can actually scale and skill. Saurabh, before we let you go, any perspective that you want to build up on it?
I think we touched upon Gen Z, and probably I want to really give my 2 cents on what could be the skills which our colleagues of the future should really focus on. And I think that's my take. I think and I have borrowed this from one of such esteemed panel in one of the conferences. And he gave a very beautiful synonym to the entire skill approach. And I think he spoke about a synonym, but I'll kind of elaborate. I think it's going to be interesting to build skills which are technologically advanced. It is important to be responsive. Build that responsiveness within yourself as an individual. Learn the art of collaboration. That is going to be the key. I mean, tools will be there. But as Swarna said, people have to start talking to each other. I think it's very important to learn the art or imbibe the art of collaboration, build resilience. And I think that is going to be the key, because, social distancing, if you look at from a norm, it is also, driving us away from individuals for whatever reasons. And I think you've got to build that resilience for your own well-being. Make sure that you're internally very strong, because it's well said that the motivation comes from within, and then you keep looking for it outside. So I think building resilience is very, very important. And I think more than anything else, you've got to be empathetic. These are bare essential skills which I would say are essential when you get into the future. And I think that's my appeal to each one on this panel or on this platform, that we got to imbibe on this journey, which is going to make us more resilient, make us more empathetic. And I think we got to continue employee or people well-being at the focus of our approach. And I think if we have that as an intent, technology will only become an enabler. Building a process will become easier because you're going to drive things what is required from a people standpoint, and then you don't really have to worry about the outcomes. The outcomes are going to be created in a better way, and I think we will evolve as a responsible business and make sure we drive better outcomes for everybody, including people, including the business and the society as a whole. So I mean, I think that's my 2 cents from a Gen Z or a future perspective, Vineet.
Thank you. I think we have about 180 seconds before we let you go. But thank you so very much for sharing the perspective. And on behalf of GWFM, I would personally want to thank you. And I think your endeavor of stated intent was fantastic. It resonates personally and professionally with me. I think the perspective of focus on process, build it up, scale it up, I think was just phenomenal. Thank you for sharing some of those perspectives which have stood the test of time and will stand the test of time, Corona, COVID or no COVID. So I think thank you for bringing that perspective out. And I would want to draw attention towards you, Swarna, as we heard from Dr. Prabhu, where he very categorically brought a context out of community learning. And so what are the perspectives that you would have on community learning? We also heard about establishing and building the process with stated intent, and your own perspectives or your own organizational drive that you have seen, Swarna, in this digitally distant economy now.
Sure, Vineet. Thank you. I think I'll have to say something that Subbu or Saurabh have not said, because they've covered a lot around that. I think I will, touch on a few aspects, touch on community angle as well. But just to add on to the perspective of how we would touch learning in the organization, there are 3 aspects that we are looking at. Okay. First one is the inspiration. How can we keep this continuous inspiration happening? The second aspect is the enabling, which includes employee experience, the ease, the accessibility, the variety that we can bring around it. And then the third aspect is the credible impact, which I'm adding the word credible because we don't want to go with the traditional items, tick box items, but which employees are able to talk back and say that, yes, this has been my return on investment on why I took up this learning. So inspiration, enablers, and credible impact, all the 3 aspects. And when I say this, here is an example of GoToWebinar itself as a platform, right? I'm not able to enable my video, and I am interested in technology. I was trying to look at why would GoToWebinar would not work in Mac. I just went and Googled immediately, went to their help desk to find out what happened. There have been a lot of issues raised on Apple devices for GoToWebinar, especially on Mac. The solution provided is, I just smiled when I looked at the solution. Many of the users have said, we'll have to completely shut down the system and come back and it will work. It's basically the power on off. So I think that is not going to be something which is going to be accepted by employees. So when we are going in for this digital aspect, okay, what is going to inspire them? How will we enable them, and the credible impact? All of that has to be very agile. It cannot be the same always. It cannot be the same for different set of people. So each of it has to be carefully defined. Subbu said, we have to look at mass upskilling and with mass customization. I would say that we should do continuous upskilling in a very customized way. I think there is a huge difference in both, because different people need different things, and customization becomes very important. Continuously doing it becomes very, very important, the agility aspect. So in our organization, I think the inspiration comes out of kind of career opportunities, learning opportunities, transparently bringing out what can really inspire them to take up a particular learning. In terms of enabling, there are a lot of, we have brought in variety in terms of learning based on interests of learners. This is not something very unique. There are many people with the APIs plug into their systems and say that there's Udemy, there is HackerRank, there are a lot of learning platforms which are plugged. The difference is that, the 24/7 support to try on and hack anytime they want. And how it is enabled for them, linking it to the overall credible impact. That is a differentiator. And how systems talk to each other because people spoke to each other. I think that becomes a very good differentiator. Learning definitely for us is not just within inside, it's inside out, outside in. That flow also is kept very consistently open so that our own employees are able to crowdsource from outside and they are also crowdsourcing from within. So this is where the community learning comes up, where we are using social collaboration as an important aspect. A major challenge after COVID, Subbu did speak about who drove the digital transformation. It was Corona. Corona in Hindi means do it. So very clearly Corona has done it, right? It has done it. But what has happened is a calendar explosion. Okay, earlier only learning and development programs used to be digital. Now a marketing program, a CSR program, employee engagement program, anything is digital. And when it comes to us, the calendar has exploded. We do not know what exactly should we go in for. The number of broadcast mailers have increased. This is a very common concern that we hear. So from an employee perspective, again, the point of inspiration, enabling and credible impact, and how in our organization, we have been able to come up with a purposeful engagement calendar, which is just a single calendar, which includes well-being, learning, social collaboration, and work collaboration, which I think is a differentiating factor. So employees can choose whether they are employees who are working flexi time or full time or in different roles, different geographies, different roles. They are able to choose from the calendar which one they would like to choose, because each of it is defined per time zones. And now the 10% of leadership development programs that was happening, even that is digital. Okay, so that also goes into the calendar. So we'll have to make sure that all of them fit into the cycle of inspiration, enabling, and credible impact. So building the ecosystem, making sure that changes are happening often. So people, it's like shopping, the consumers, when they come and see into the shop, every time they come, they have to see something new. So all the time, making it very continuous and customized is what is a differentiator, and that's what we're trying to do, Vineet.
Fantastic. Inspiration,
Vineet, if I take a moment.
Sorry?
No, sorry, Vineet. Once you're done, I just need a minute, if that's okay, once you're done.
Yeah, please go ahead.
No, I just wanted to extend my thanks, Vineet, to you and the esteemed fellow panelists. It was fortunate that I could come and express my thoughts. It was definitely a learning experience, and I look forward to speaking with all of you in the days to come. Thank you for all the participants, and of course a big thank you to GWFM. As always, they've made sure they got all of us on a single platform where we could learn so much. Thank you, Vineet, and sorry for the interruption.
Perfectly fine.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Cheers.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I think you brought in some interesting perspectives, Swarna. So inspiration, enablement, and the credible impact. I think that was the core broad context that had come out. With respect to credible impact, the only question that I would have is there a factor of dependability and reliability that makes it credible, or is it the outcome which makes an impact credible?
I think clearly, with the articulation from a organization angle, saying what would be coming in as an impact and making sure that that impact is delivered on time for anybody who deserves to get it. I think that is a differentiator, because many a times we've heard from organizations otherwise. So that definitely is a differentiator for us.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Coming to you, Dr. Guru, any perspective that you will want to build or supplement or complement on what we have heard from our esteemed fellow panelists?
No, I think each of their perspective is extremely important to imbibe respective organizations what works for them, and definitely it is also important that while looking at the employees pick up their own skills and the organization facilitate, the inspiration part is something which really I feel that very important here. And then in a digital world, how do we inspire? So what we did, one example I just wanted to share. It is not only the employees that we need to inspire at this point in time. Entire 15,000 workforce was not ready for a COVID work from home scenario. I have employees who work in the night shift taking calls, who are single bedroom house, or maybe they have only one room with parents sleeping and making calls. So I have gone one step ahead and inspiring their parents. Not only their parents, their if it is the relatives, because today the need of the hour has become one step ahead of not engaging or inspiring or skilling their employees. But in a work from environment, home environment, what your son or daughter is expected to do and why they are required to be attending to the office during lunchtime or their breakfast time or something like that. And then there are what pretty small things which is invisible, which we cannot even imagine. I got a repository of experiences of my employees who were not even having a table and chair to sit and then make the PC what we have delivered to start working. So the way we look at it, the inspiration is something which we need to capture, which is not explained anywhere, and how we go that extra mile, non-digital, to make those connect is very, very important. Is what I would like to share my thoughts. So when we create a lot of things, we expect that what we are doing is good for the employees, and then they're all happening. But whether their environment is adaptable to use those new learnings is something also very important for professionals like us and leaders like us needs to be little bit focused on, and that makes all the more conducive environment for the learners to make things put into practice. That is something which I thought I should share.
Sure. Technology and environment has a strong role to play, and that is what needs to be enabled, taking cue from what Swarna had talked about.
Especially in this scenario, it may not be relevant in the office scenario, or if I am hiring someone for working from home as a practice, it may not be relevant because they all come with that. But COVID has taught us something which we have never asked during the interview. Are you open to work from home? Do you have the facilities? Nothing. We hired for a skill set, and then now we want them to produce what they can produce with the work environment. They cannot do it in that 8 hours, and then we expect to complete that. Okay, you are at home only, you can do it. So the stress, when we learned that this is happening, we realized that they need the support from the parents or spouse. That is more important. If we can't inspire the parents or spouse at home, the employee is going to burn out. So I think that is something which I borrowed from the previous speaker on the inspiration, which we already started doing.
Fantastic. So thank you for sharing that wonderful insight. I think as we come towards an end, I mean, I really wanted to keep on going and keep on probing multiple wealth of experience that you are sharing, the also wisdom that is just flowing from you, Subhu, Swarna, Saurabh, and Raghavendra. I just wanted to continue, but I'm sure Dr. Shiva and Parthoda, we must have eaten into some part of your time. Inspirationally, I think there are four broad contexts that are important. So community learning is going to be order of the day. We should not be exposed to our fear on vulnerability. I think what will we do if we are not afraid of? should be the broad element that comes across. We heard that from Raghavendra, Swarna, and Subbu in various shapes and form. I think the 3B translating to 5B into 7B was an interesting journey that did come across. Reality is Corona in Hindi is all about do. It's all about action. It's all about karma. I think that was very well metaphorically brought out, Swarna. So thank you for that. I think from a WFM professional's perspective, my 2 cents would be not to be afraid of going into any element, even if that means community learning has to be the order of the day. I think we should go. Digital savviness has to be brought in. UX UI as a context has to be brought in as part of the upskilling and reskilling that WFM professionals must be doing. It's all about mindset, and whichever tool one needs to pick up, whether it is the neuroscience way, the purist way, anthropological way, the psychological way, or just simply focusing on what is it that is going to be inspirational. Where do we find out the enablement to be inspired that will help us fulfill our aspiration? And then obviously the credible impact that will come across from the perspiration that we are going to put in is a key context and perspective. Lastly, I think I will again draw from what you had shared, Subbu. So we should not end up into a stage where we shepherd our 30-year career on 25 years of education. It has to be constantly day in, day out. I think that's a perspective that I take across, and I hand over the baton to you, Dr. Shiva and Partho. Thank you so very much. For me, it has been personal learning and enrichment that I have taken across from the newborn baby called Swarna, or our Guruji, or True Blue IBMer, or I think Raghavendra is not there, the Agile Workforce champion, and then of course the process champion in form of Saurabh. So personally, it has been high energy learning that I have taken over last 70, 60, 80 minutes, whatever that was. Over to you, Shiva. Thank you so very much for the platform.
Thank you all panelists. Thank you, Vineet.
Thank you.
That window. Okay, perfect. No, so I think we are good, unless if somebody wants to raise hand.
Hi, sorry, Vineet, I was on mute. There's one question asked by someone. 1 minute.
Hello, this is Alejandro.
Hi, hi, go ahead.
I want to thank you for everything. Like, has been like very, very nice webinar. Like a lot of good information here, and I getting feeling with a lot of good information in my mind. So I want to thank you about that. So, but I do have a question about that part of the skilling programs. So from an HR perspective, those skill programs should be done in the working time, or should it be just like letting the people get their time from a part of the work to go to their, so to show interest or something like that, or is it like too much work for them to get it after the work hours? What should be the correct way to do it?
Can I take that, Vineet?
Sure. Okay.
Thank you for asking this question, because we work with 22 countries, people from 22 countries in Europe. We have operations there, and you know that UK and Ireland as well. So the number of associates from different nationalities, we have multiple, and these questions keep coming when people join us newly. The answer that we give is an example that we use. So we take the example or the concept from Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey brings out very nicely the time management matrix, wherein he brings out what are the activities that people do in terms of urgency and importance. So there is a quadrant 2, which is a very important quadrant, which brings out activities of not very urgent, but very important. Okay, and that is where a lot of planning, learning, self-development happens. So to the person who asked this question, if I may ask you, if you plan for your vacations and if you go for your vacations, it's for your personal enhancement or it's a relaxation that you have. Do you think you will do it in working hours or during holidays?
Well, yeah. I mean, for example, go for vacations, you want to just be like resting. But for example, me, I'm doing this one on my own in my personal time. So but it's because I really like to learn about workforce and I keep growing and learning a lot of things. But it is just my decision, and it's not like something that someone is getting to me that asks me to do it in my personal free time. Sorry.
Thank you. I think that's the inspiration part, right? You like to do the learning and you do it on your own. And if it's a self-development aspect, generally it's done by our own planning. It depends on whether the employee wants to do it by managing work during working hours or outside. Generally, we give an impression that it is for self-development and the planning is done by the employee themselves. This is from the organization angle, Vineet.
Nice. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have another question from Sudha Kapoor from IBM. I'm just going to unmute her. Hi, Sudha. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, Sudha. Yeah, you're audible.
Hey, Shiva. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. So I wanted to know from all the leaders here that how this COVID condition would impact this, our overall functioning, and what are the suggestions, for all of these WFM professionals, to maximize their efficiency during these times.
Thank you for asking. This is Vineet here. I mean, my message would be keep positive, test negative. I think that is number one. That will improve the effectiveness. So, which means if you test negative on COVID, you will be absolutely effective. Right? And we heard of mindset and personal effectiveness, etc. So let's be positive. Second would be, I think, drawing cue from what Subbu had shared. I think continue to reskill, take this opportunity to reskill and upskill, identify and revisit your career aspiration, identify what is it that you will want to carve out. And again, I think drawing cue from what Raghavendra had shared, as a, I mean, towards making a trend towards or a movement towards being a digital savvy person. What are the skills that are required? We heard from Subbu, 80% gap is still in existence if we were to become digital citizens, so to say, digital corporate citizens. So I think those would be some of the inputs that I would have. I mean, as you craft your personal charter for your effectiveness, for your inspiration that you want to look at, I think we also will draw from the aspect that Swarna had brought out. So identify what are the enablers for you. Is the motive from within? That's something that you'll have to look into ecology. That would be the other part. And specifically, since you brought out the context of WFM, my sense would be reliance on some of the next generation that we are evolving to. Is something that will be relevant and important. AI came across as a context. So imagine where algorithms are actually going to do the forecasting, so you don't need to do any ARIMA or exponential smoothing, etc. So to say, that would be other set of charters that I would check in case if there is any other perspective, Swarna, that you may want to add.
Yeah, one thing, Vineet, is from WFM we will become really GWFM. In this post-COVID. By that, what I mean is, earlier when we were looking at staffing options, we were looking at people who are available in the same location and all of that to staff a project. But now, really, for us, when this borderless delivery goes in and when people can work from anywhere,
yeah, very good point.
We really will have access to a larger talent. So WFM, how the organizations and all that, but really, Vasudha, since you're from IBM, I know. So I think we will really become GWFM and will not be constrained by location, right? So that will be one significant change in post-COVID that we will see. Because some of these, I think what we pick up in our difficult times, some of these will remain with us forever. Like, for example, a couple of years back when we had this demonetization, ran out of cash, right? And then you will see every a tender, a roadside pushcart guy, all of them accepting the Paytm cards and all of that, right? They will proudly put that QR code card and everything. But now, even now, they continue, right? Now you don't have this situation where you run out of cash or you don't have access to cash or whatever, right? But still they continue, because some of these practices that you pick in tough times, you may sustain it even beyond that when the situation has changed, simply because there is value in it, right? So today, what we have adopted, because we are forced to adopt because we are all working from home and we are tapping at talent everywhere, I think that is going to stay for us, with us, for years to come. So that's one thing I think post-COVID, where from WFM we really become GWFM, just borrowing the name from this group, right?
Yeah, very well said, Subbu. Thank you.
We have a couple of questions. Yeah, let me unmute them. We have Vaijayanti S here.
Yeah,
Vaijayanti,
hi. Yeah,
Please ask.
Vijay here. Okay, hi. So just one question to Swara, because this is something that we keep getting in different forums. You said the calendars are double booked, it is booked so much that we, as a women employee, right? What do you think? How do we need to manage it? Because this is a question that keeps coming time and again. And what is your view on that, Swara?
Yeah, I think I am the culprit. Actually, it would be Swarna, and I think I've been calling Swarna as Swara.
Okay,
So
you have been calling us Swarna. Okay, Swarna, so that's a question for you, because that will resonate quite well with you, because we are quite booked at home front and also at the work. So what is your suggestion on how do we manage our calendars? Some tips and tricks that you can share with us that will be helpful.
Okay. I use something called find it, flex it, and fix it. Okay, let me explain that. I think we need to clearly identify our priorities. Once we have done it, see, we will definitely have problems as well when we are identifying priorities. Some kind of disturbances which might come in terms of meetings, in terms of a sudden call from our children, call from their school. A lot of things might happen. So keeping that in mind, in terms of finding out what are those things that are actually disturbing, plays a very, very potential role. That's how I started, because I was also finding it very difficult managing home and work. But then I also informed my stakeholders about when they can expect me to be there and when they should allow me to be not invited at all. Clear communication on that, both to family and to work, both ways, keeping that clear really help. So I found what are all the actual disturbance areas and try to be very flexible about certain things. I think the key point is being flexible, because we ourselves have a lot of rigid notions about something has to be done like this only. Something has to be done at this quality level at this time by these people and things like that. Those aspects have to become very flexible for us, and then we will be able to fix it. So calendar, have a high level plan of how many hours and distribute it evenly. Do not have a continuous 9 hours or a continuous 8 hours. Having a distributed 2 hours and then breaking it 1 hour, again doing a 3 hour, breaking it 2 hours, doing 2 hours again might be helpful. This is just a practitioner's view. This is what I have tried. It has worked. So I'm sure you might also tried something. Hope it helps. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think we have well past the hour. Over to you for closing.
Yeah,
but
yes,
thank you once again, Subbu and Swarna. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure, Vineet. It was great learning from each one of you. It was a wonderful platform. Thank you, Vineet. Thank you, Subbu, and Raghavendra and Saurabh have left. Thank you, Shiva and Partho, for giving the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Swarna, for joining. Thanks, Subbu. Vineet, thank you so much for making this second panel discussion so successful.